its main mission. So they couldn't get the IRS the information it needed to send out checks. But thanks to some legal wrangling, that's been worked out. One group left out of this good news: VA beneficiaries. The IRS says it's continuing to review data it has on people who get veterans benefits but don't file a tax return. The IRS does expect to come up with a payment date soon, hopefully around mid-April. Connecting the dots, I'm Tiffany Craig.
Rick Scott said he doesn't want to preserve the benefits of Medicare and Social Security, and he doesn't know if Republicans want to change that. In August, Ron Johnson of Wisconsin suggested that Social Security and Medicare should be discretionary spending programs that are either approved by Congress instead of federal entitlement programs or mandatory spending. According to the Washington Post, a spokesperson from Johnson's office said that Johnson doesn't want to eliminate the programs but thinks they are threatened without the fiscal discipline and oversight typically found with discretionary spending. The New York Times reported that top Republicans also suggested that raising the age to collect Social Security from 67 to 70 and raising the health insurance premiums for seniors, pitching the ideas as a way to combat high government spending is a problem. And President Biden, the former president, among other top Democrats, have called out Republicans on this for their suggested cuts and cancellations of stimulus checks. All we know is one thing, everybody, because President Biden must send out stimulus payments before it gets too late. We cannot wait for this to happen, everybody. President Biden must do it now. It's finally happening. New stimulus checks will arrive again this November for many people, and as well as December and January. People will get stimulus payments in those months. Many states have announced stimulus checks for residents in order to combat inflation and the increased prices due to inflation too. So many of these payments will be sent to those who filed tax returns in 2020 or 2021, but different states have different requirements for eligibility. The extra cash can also help you pay for Thanksgiving dinner or save for gifts as the holidays approach. It's important to know that if you qualify, you'll get the money fast. If you haven't filed your taxes yet, you could be missing out on a $1,400 stimulus check, and if you don't do so by November 15th, you won't be able to claim this money if you haven't filed yet. In California, for instance, the stimulus checks have been going out since days, and more are going to be sent out during Thanksgiving and the holiday season. The second phase of payments were sent to those who received the Golden State stimulus check as a debit card. Most of these checks should arrive by November 14th. Early this year, Colorado residents of at least 18 years of age and who filed a tax return were eligible to receive an inflation relief check of $750. And everybody, while most checks were already sent out in the fall, if you received an extension of your 2021 tax returns and filed by October 17, then you can expect to receive a stimulus check again next year at the beginning of the year. Idaho announced $500 million on income tax rebates for residents who are either full-time residents living in the state or filed taxes for 2020 and 2021. Individual filers will receive at least $300 and joint filers will receive at least $600 or more. 10% of income taxes paid for 2020 are going to be sent out to you right now. And now, residents will need to file a 2020 and 2021 individual income tax return by December 31st, 2022 to be eligible. Payments could be processed starting in late September, and with funds being sent via direct deposit, first followed by mail checks shortly after. Payments will be processed throughout 2022 and early 2023, so yours could be arriving this month. Starting in June, Maine began sending out relief checks to $850, and to qualify, you had to do your tax returns before they canceled it. Payments initially began sending out in June, and are going to continue through eligible recipients who filed their tax returns as they came in. Now, folks, I want you to know this very important information. Rising prices numbers are one concern for voters in this year's midterms. Now, it was a big concern for everybody. Rising prices are the number one concern, everybody. The election comes as consumer prices are climbing at the fastest rate in nearly 40 years. Annual inflation in September was already 8% higher, as down from the year ago, and now the consumer price index again for October is set to be released, and now it's not looking good. The surge in prices has fueled angst among many people. Price for groceries, gas is just increasing like crazy. It's something that everybody doesn't want to see. It's disappointing that President Biden is letting this happen, but what can we expect, everybody?
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be back with all of you, and I want to just start by saying our leadership elections are going to be easy. So it's under Senator Schumer's leadership I just wanted to reassure Chuck. That was my main goal, to make sure he knew. But the truth of the matter is that from day one, in the most challenging of circumstances, Democrats have delivered for the American people over and over again. It's just the fact. From tackling the COVID pandemic to save lives, to get our children back to school safely, to be able to help people and businesses survive and thrive. That was number one. And then we delivered the infrastructure law 1 year ago today. The president signed that bill. And you can see progress everywhere you go. And I can assure you in Michigan, you can see orange cones everywhere you go. Across the country, 6,900 projects are fixing our roads and bridges and airports.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from New York.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on the measure under consideration.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of H.R. 6450, the SCORE for Small Business Act of 2022. America's nearly 30 million small businesses represent more
in the end of August, or the pause would be extended further. The president has said in the past that he supports canceling up to $10,000 in student loan debt. When lawmakers mentioned student loans, the president said he's asking aides to explore his options. This is a signal to lawmakers that he may be willing to go farther than he pledged during his campaign. What are the lawmakers that met with Biden told reporters they're looking at different options on what they can do, on forgiving it entirely? That was our request. Now, there is already an August 31st deadline that has been set, just as early voting will be starting in several states ahead of the midterm elections. Now, the ongoing public message that the Biden administration is looking into, and officials in the Biden administration have been examining whether the president has the authority through executive action to forgive federal student loan debt, since the president took office more than a year ago. Canceling student loan debt would actually depend on whether a group or individual challenges the action. What are your thoughts on this, everybody? Should President Biden cut down student loan debt? Folks, the good news is that many people will be receiving a $2,000 stimulus check this month. To know if you're eligible for this $2,000 stimulus payment, watch until the end of the video. The Social Security Administration has announced that nearly $6,000 in new monthly benefits can actually be claimed by millions of people. The IRS has just sent out over 78 million payments actually. So, watch until the end of the video because we're going over a lot of information about Social Security, stimulus checks, SSI, and SSDI. There's a lot of good news to talk about. So folks, a senior citizen advocacy group has estimated that Social Security benefits could increase by 8.9% in January of next year. On the surface, that may sound cheerworthy, but the mechanics behind the potential boost carry more bad news than good news. The advocacy group released its estimate after the Bureau of Labor Statistics released its March 2022 inflation report. That report showed 3 primary measures of inflation, rising between 8.1% and 9.4% over the past year. Inflation, or rising prices, is the driver of Social Security COLA. The purpose, everybody, for the COLA is to protect the